to the Empowering Parents program. We're going to work on Wise Mind today. So, Wise Mind is the overlap between emotion and reason mind. It's where we drop blame and judgments and drop disconnect and all of the facts and try to find a place to which we have our emotions, we have our logic, and we respond with them instead of reacting out of them. So, Wise Mind is a place to which we have both emotions and logic, and we respond with them instead of reacting out of them. What we're doing is we're acknowledging both the emotion and the logic at the same time. So let's look at an example. When your child engages in that ineffective behavior, we can express our sadness or fear and offer to help them as well. Instead of reacting with emotion mind, why'd you do that again? How could you? It's the third time this week. You might respond with, it sounds like you were in pain and you engaged in this behavior. What do you need right now? What we're working on is responding effectively, which requires you to stay balanced. We're only focusing on your side of the street with this. This week's practice, or this session's practice, involves recognizing your different states of mind in which you think and react out of with your young person, and trying to find a more balanced place to be. So now that you are aware of what each state of mind looks like, what your emotion mind looks like, and what your reason mind looks like, we're working to find what wise mind looks like. A wise mind is a state of mind that we just know what is true. It's more intuitive and it's more balanced. So remember that worksheet, we're going to pull it back out, and we're focusing on wise mind as being effectiveness and doing just what's needed and doing what works. The way that we respond to our young person has an impact. Again, we might not be the reason, and we're definitely not the cause of dysregulation, and we have a role in it. So I want you to think about those anchor points from emotion mind and reason mind, and I want you to write those down again, because if you're going to change your reactions, you have to recognize kind of the nuances to your reactions so that you can move into wise mind from either emotion mind or reason mind. Kind of keeping in mind, we're not trying to get rid of our emotions. If you're in emotion mind, we're just trying to find a more helpful range to operate out of. Too much emotion of any emotion can create ineffectiveness and help us kind of lose track of our goals. So with both reason and emotion mind, we're going to start with the same skill, and the DBT skill is called the stop skill. Each letter stands for a different component of the skill, and you're going to do these in order. The S stands for stop, and this can be physical, and this can also be like mental. Stop physically, stop thinking. Try to just freeze and stop whatever reaction you're in the middle of. T is take a step back, which means you can physically take a step back from the situation to help you get unstuck. When we have strong emotions or we have narrowed thinking from either opposite state of mind, we want to be able to kind of broaden. We want to be able to open ourselves up to the opposite state of mind so that we can find a balance. The next skill is observe. This is a lot of mindfulness. Observe what is happening around you. How is your young person actually reacting, and what are they saying here? What are they doing here? And we have to be non-judgmental in our observations. What are just the facts? What are just the observable facts of what is happening? The other observing that we want to do is to practice what's going on inside you. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What are my urges to react right now? Can you label those urges as either emotion mind urges or reason mind urges? The P is proceed mindfully. Ask yourself, what do I want out of this situation? What is effective? What's the goal? What choices might make the situation better or worse? So I want you to think about a situation in which you reacted with emotion mind recently. Pause for as long as you need. Now, with that situation in mind, I want you to pinpoint, kind of freeze frame to which you noticed that emotion, mind, or reason mind, or that emotion, mind reaction was about to happen. Kind of find that anchor point. Was it a tense jaw? Was it your heart racing? Did you have like a flood of thinking? Whatever it might be, I want you to go into that moment in the situation. Now we're going to move into more of an imaginal practice. When we imagine ourselves implementing strategies even before we've ever practiced them, we tend to be able to access them more effectively. So I want you to practice imagining yourself stopping at that point. Whatever stopping looks like for you at that point, I want you to kind of freeze frame into it. Before you do the thing that's ineffective, see yourself stop, take a step back, and then practice observing. What am I feeling? What's going on in my body? What's going on in my thinking? What urges am I having? And what is my young person doing? Describe in your mind or on paper what you're noticing in that moment. Take as much time as you need, and then proceed mindfully. Again, asking yourself in that moment, what do I want out of this situation? How can I be effective? What is the goal? What choice might I make that makes things better or worse? At this point, you might know exactly what you need to do to respond effectively and to move forward. However, if your emotions are still too high and you need to get them down and you need a few strategies, totally makes sense. So they're listed on this handout for a couple of techniques that you can use to get your emotion mind a bit more regulated so that you can access wise mind. Taking mindful breaths throughout the conversation can be very helpful. When we're in crisis and our emotions hit powerfully, usually we engage in more shallow breathing, which leaves us vulnerable to our emotions. So, regulating our body can help us become more balanced. Finding a way to engage in some paced breathing and some mindful breathing can help regulate us enough to get us out of emotion mind. Sometimes, though, that isn't strong enough. Sometimes we need a higher intensity strategy. So, holding ice is a way to distract us. It's engaging in a sensation that your brain has to focus on. Like, this is more powerful than what you're feeling. It just helps your brain kind of unlock from the reaction that it's in so that you can refocus on what's needed. You can take a moment to go to the bathroom and splash some cold water on your face. You can do something that is a higher intensity. There's a tip your temperature skill where you hold ice to your face and you bend over and you hold your breath. And you do this for up to 30 seconds. What's really important about this skill is that it actually calms your nervous system, slows your heart rate, and it slows your breathing. If you are taking any kind of blood pressure medications, if you take any kind of if you have any heart conditions, you want to talk to your doctor before you try this skill to make sure that this is a skill that you can use. But that will also help alleviate those high intensity reactions. Sometimes what we need to do in our mind is also recite the fact that our young person is doing the best that they can. It's often hard to see that that's possible, especially when these behaviors are repeated. And what we want to remember is that they could choose differently. If they could choose differently and if they could do something that's more effective than what they're doing, they would do it. That they are not choosing to remain in this pain or distress. There's another strategy called the half smile. This is another DBT skill to which you reduce the tension in your face. It's not a grin, you're not smiling, we're not masking the way that we're feeling. We're loosening all of the tension from the top of our forehead down to our collarbone so that we can kind of override the tension in our body so that our brain can shift gears and find a more balanced approach. When we're having powerful emotions, we hold a lot of tension. We want to regulate some of that tension so that we can find a more balanced approach. So practice letting go of all the tension in your face and your jaw and your mouth and your neck and your collarbone. So that way we can change our body to access different skills and access our wise mind. The next couple of strategies are finding things to incorporate throughout crises that are soothing to ourselves, soothing to our body. This can be something tactile like lotion, it can be something that you eat or drink like tea, but try to find something that feels comforting and soothing because you're in the midst of so much stress. Now, find a few different strategies that you can lean on to help yourself kind of pull out of emotion mind and find more of a balanced space with wise mind. So now I want to switch over into reason mind. How do we get out of reason mind and into more wise mind space? So I want you to keep those anchor points that you've already identified in the last session. Write those down again. What are the typical thoughts? What are the typical responses and behaviors that I engage in that is my reason mind? Again, if you can name it, you can tame it. If you can name your reason mind and recognize it as is happening, then you can access the strategies and access the balance a lot faster. So in reason mind, we need to bring more emotion into it. Too little focus on emotion can lead us away from our goals. So again, you're going to use the stop skill for reason mind. So I want for the next few moments for you to think about a recent event or situation where you reacted out of your reason mind. Now, with that situation in mind, I want you to pinpoint the moment to right before you engaged in the reason mind behavior and reaction. Maybe that was this isn't that big of a deal. Maybe you rolled your eyes. Maybe you disengaged or walked away. Whatever that situation is, I want you to pull that up. Okay. Now I want you to practice imagining yourself stepping outside of that, stopping yourself. Before you do the thing that's ineffective, see yourself stop. Take a step back and practice observing. What did you feel? What urges did you have? What types of thoughts were coming in? What was your young person doing? Describe in your mind or on paper what you noticed in that one moment. And then proceed mindfully. Again, keeping yourself in that moment, ask yourself, what do I want from this situation? How can I be effective? What's the goal? What choice might make the situation better or worse? Take as much time as you need to answer all of these questions and to practice that stop skill. And at this point, you might know exactly what's needed to respond effectively moving forward. However, if reason mind is too high, and you're still staying too focused on solutions and the facts of the situation and still not being able to see the emotions and their validity, here are some strategies. On your worksheet, they're listed out. Again, we're going to take a mindful breath. Reason mind is a disconnected one, so we want to reconnect internally. What am I feeling in my body? Am I feeling tense? And can I start to take some mindful breaths and start to pace my breathing? I want you to kind of remember in another strategy that in order to get effective solutions and avoid more crises or escalating this crisis, we need to attend to emotion. Emotion has its place. It may not be the whole part, but it is definitely a part of it. Another strategy is to remember your young person is doing the best that they can, and they wouldn't choose this crisis if they could get out of it. Another strategy is to slow yourself down. Notice urges to fix and to give solutions. Let go of your agenda for now. You can come back to it and attend to their emotions and really listen. This means looking at your young person, engaging with them, seeing what their body is communicating to you, what the tone of voice is, and hear what they're actually saying now, fully participating in it. opening up with that gentle curiosity. Reason mind is not present. What we're doing is bringing a lot of mindfulness in to really listening. Another strategy is to try to find similar situations or similar emotions that you've had that you can empathize with their emotion or the way that they might be feeling. Sometimes our young person doesn't express a whole lot of emotion, and it's like kind of focused on what the situation is, the details of the event, and we have to work a little bit harder to find what is their emotion. Often it's also hard to relate if your young person has more powerful emotions than you've ever had, and that's fair. So try to find times that you've experienced the same emotion, just maybe not the same intensity of the emotion. Empathize with that part. Or times where you've had similar urges, maybe not to this degree. Maybe there's still a part of it that feels very normal to you or feels like something you can relate to. What we're doing is validating. We're saying there's a part of this that totally makes sense, and I can understand why you might think, feel, or react the way that you are. We're going to work on this skill a whole lot more in other sessions. Another strategy, in the last one listed, is letting go of thoughts of just do it, it shouldn't be that hard, and trying to replace them with questions of curiosity. What makes this so difficult to complete right now? And let's talk about what it's like for you when this happens. Using open-ended questions and curiosity goes a long way to get you out of your reason mind and move you into a more balanced state of mind where then maybe some active and effective problem solving can happen. So I want you to practice finding a couple of strategies that you're going to use and practice for reason mind and getting yourself kind of out of reason mind. And start working on troubleshooting these. What gets in your way when you start working on some of these strategies, either for reason mind or emotion mind, and keep plugging away at it from there.